Well, bombs are flying in Iran again. Hey, fellow Texans, I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And we got the announcement right before the show started. CENTCOM has the announcement over here on their Twitter feed. It says, as of 2 p.m. Eastern time today, so 1 p.m. real time, U.S. forces began conducting a new wave of strikes against Iran for the sixth consecutive night to further degrade Iranian military capabilities. I thought it was just the fifth consecutive night. I don't know. Maybe I'm off. Or maybe, look, they are 8.5 hours ahead of us in Tehran. I don't know why the half is thrown in there. So right now, it is 10:36. Now, yesterday we had something similar to where they said we started strikes at 2 o'clock our time. Well, after the James Show completed last night, CENTCOM put another tweet up about yesterday's round of strikes. So it says U.S. Central Command ended an evening wave of strikes against Iran at 9 p.m. Eastern time on July 5th. So that'd be about, 4:30 in the morning for those guys over there. U.S. forces struck Iranian command centers, air defense sites, missile and drone capabilities, and coastal surveillance facilities to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten innocent mariners crewing commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM used precision munitions to hit targets in multiple locations, including Bandar Abbas, and I don't even know where that's at. Earlier this morning, American forces struck coastal defense and cruise missile sites on the Greater Tunb Island. It's spelled T-U-N-B, and I've never said that word before, so a little grace, please. During a 90-minute wave, the U.S. military is holding Iran accountable at the commander-in-chief's direction. And then they included a nice little 1-minute, 16-second video of stuff blowing up, which, as far as like the content goes and what was said and what is done, really doesn't mean a whole lot. But I am kind of a child, and it is crazy awesome to see stuff blowing up. I don't like seeing people die, but if you just want to show me like an object, like an unmanned building or like an airplane that's just sitting on the ground and no one's in it and it gets hit with a missile, heck yeah, I think that's cool. So what we have here is someone wants to blow stuff up. Blow stuff up, guys. Get to it. Oh, yeah, man, that's so cool to watch the missiles launch off of these boats, these destroyers. All right, this is great. This is a plane taking off from the aircraft carrier. So this is what they're putting out. So that's the, I'm a good American citizen. I enjoy keeping up with what my tax dollars are being used for overseas. However, if this is the fifth or sixth consecutive night, I don't know really which one it is. Can we expect a whole lot of different results? Man, I don't know. Me not having any military experience, plus, we don't know what's really going on over there. It could be that Iran takes a few missiles, they immediately get out the next day, and they start rebuilding, and they're pretty much made whole within a matter of days or weeks, or maybe months. Or it could be that they are one day away from finally capitulating and throwing in the towel. I have no idea. The media is going to tell you it's going terrible. Trump's going to tell you it's going great. I feel like we have no clue. I feel like we can't trust anybody, and we're not going to find out for a long time what this was all about. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Now, coming up tonight, Trump is doing a speech where he's asking the networks to interrupt their prime time. And Carolyn Leavitt hinted in her press conference earlier today that this would be focusing on some election integrity issues. Now, that was immediately interpreted as he's going to come out and question the election integrity of the 2020 election, which there's a lot of smoke around that one. It could just be about the SAVE Act. She was intentionally coy about it, and I'll be playing that. I'll be playing some clips from that press conference later. But we are going to break into that tonight, and maybe he'll be addressing some of this Iran stuff too. Because if you're going to get out there and get in prime time, the cycle has been, yes, he does have one topic that he wants to stick, but here's what I predict. He's going to get out there and he's going to tell you about the inflation number going down. He's going to tell you about that. He's going to tell you about It'll now be what is it, 18 months in a row that we've had zero border crossings. He'll tell you everything that he wants the American public to hear that he doesn't feel like is getting mentioned in the rest of the media. And then he'll probably hammer on whatever election thing it is. And it's got to be either the 2020 election or the SAVE Act going forward or something to that effect. But we'll have it live here. Maybe this Iran stuff will be part of it as well. Now, coming up next on the James Show, a scary story. Well, from my point of view, this is the kind of stuff that, parents it gives them nightmares. And we have the story of a dentist who looks like maybe accidentally killed their pediatric patient. A 4-year-old girl died from what seems to be a mistake. I mean, an honest mistake, sure. A reckless mistake, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go that far. But it's a heartbreaking story. And, we have enough stuff to worry about around here with, car accidents and violent crime and whatever the heck else is going on. Do we have to be worried about the dentist as well? I'll give you details on that coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Man, we got to worry about going to the dentist now. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for the WBAP Morning Show. And also remember, Donald Trump's going to come to town. He'll be at the American Airlines Center here in Dallas, where I'm at, for the midterm convention right next to the WBAP studios. It'll be September 9th and 10th, and that is less than 2 months away. In fact, our kids are about to start going back to school in less than a month. You know, they got band camp coming up. Yeah, get the hell out of my house. No, but here's the scary story. I heard this one out of Fort Worth, and man, some people, you just wake up and you assume that when you go to bed that night, all your kids are going to be okay. And that's not always the case.
Chris, police just arrested this dentist this afternoon. She's charged with injury to a child and the death of a 4-year-old girl. Police say the girl died of a lethal overdose of opioid medication the dentist gave her before a procedure. Aitana Arriaga died back in April in Fort Worth. Investigators say the medical examiner told them she had twice the amount of Demerol in her system compared to what's safe for adults. An arrest affidavit says Dr. Chriselle Hemphill told investigators the girl lost consciousness when she started to wake her up from sedation. The dentist said she tried to give her a drug to reduce the effect of the sedative, but did not give her Narcan, which could have stopped the opioid responsible for her death. The little girl died at the hospital. Police say Hemphill failed to recognize the problem and didn't give the girl proper life-saving measures. And they say her pediatrician told investigators she didn't think the little girl even needed the procedure in the first place. Hemphill is still in jail awaiting bond.
Damn. It sounds like about 10 things went wrong there. And can we just start to count them up? Number one, the dosage of Demerol, too big. Number two, when she started freaking out, the wrong response happened. But they just throw in at the very end what I think is probably the biggest problem we have at all, is that her pediatrician didn't think she needed the procedure in the first place. And so we've got a real dilemma here, because I think this might have happened to you at some point. This might have happened to most families. You know, when you have a dentist and they say you need a procedure, you just have to trust them. I mean, you can maybe go to another dentist and get a second opinion. But here, I mean, we have all kinds of problems. I mean, are you even supposed to give a 4-year-old Demerol? And if you are giving a 4-year-old Demerol, like, shouldn't you know the dosage? How do you mix that up? How do you give them twice as much as what the adult dosage is? How do you not give them Narcan? Aren't you supposed to know this? You know, it's not like we're just pulling someone off the street and saying, hey, how do you handle a patient that's overdosing on Demerol? We're asking someone who's supposed to be a medical professional. And I know that every time I've dropped my kid off at the dentist, I never thought, whoa, this is a life or death situation. But I guess that's not always the case. Okay, I have a special guest here. My dentist. Now, my dentist is not a regular dentist. I'm from a very small town. I'm from Bug Tussle. And Paul is someone that I went to school with, kindergarten through 12th grade. We're in the same grade. We had the same classes every damn year. So if I'm in Bug Tussle and I need to get my teeth fixed, I have to go to Paul. He's one of my top friends in the world of all time. And so here's the deal. When Paul's calling in right now, first off, welcome to your first appearance on the James Show here. But did you catch all the details of the story, Paul?
No, I have not really. I read the little article you sent me.
Okay, so did you get the Demerol details?
I know that Demerol was administered, it appears.
Okay, so
along with some other drugs. So I mean, you know, we don't know what else was administered.
All right, so let's talk about this. If your dentist says your child needs to have a procedure, but the pediatrician says you don't, who do you listen to?
So the pediatrician said no, I would say no.
Here, let me play the 1 minute news clip again. You mind? Can you hear okay? Let's try this.
Yeah, I can hear.
All right.
Dentist this afternoon. She's charged with injury to a child and the death of a 4-year-old girl. Police say the girl died of a lethal overdose of opioid medication the dentist gave her before a procedure. Aitana Arriaga died back in April in Fort Worth. Investigators say the medical examiner told them she had twice the amount of Demerol in her system compared to what's safe for adults. An arrest affidavit says Dr. Chriselle Hemphill told investigators the girl lost consciousness when she started to wake her up from sedation. The dentist said she tried to give her a drug to reduce the effect of the sedative, but did not give her Narcan, which could have stopped the opioid responsible for her death. The little girl died at the hospital. Police say Hemphill failed to recognize the problem and didn't give the girl proper life-saving measures. And they say her pediatrician told investigators she didn't think the little girl even needed the procedure in the first place.
All right. Dennis, Paul, have you ever heard of someone dying at a dentist before? I'm not even sure if I've heard of this in my entire life.
I have heard of one other case. Yes, I have.
In your entire life? Was it similar to this? Was it a child, or was it someone who was probably the opposite, maybe really old and frail?
No, it was a teenager.
All right. Do we have to be worried about our kids at the dentist, Paul?
I would say no.
All right. Well, how do you prevent this from happening to your kid?
Well, I would refer my kids to the proper pediatric dentist.
How do you know who's the right one?
I mean, and I can't speak on the behalf of this dentist, but I mean, most pediatric dentists I know are going to take that child to the operating room and do anything they need to have done there. I know that's how the ones where I live operate.
See, I've never had to think about this problem because, if I need a dentist, I go to you. But when you live in a big city and there's a bazillion dentists and you don't know anybody and you just moved here and you've got a kid that's having, they got teeth, how do you pick out how do you know if you have a good pediatric dentist?
You're going to have to read a lot of reviews.
That's it, just reviews?
I would read reviews. You can, you can look at the facilities they're in. Whether they're sedating or whether the anesthesiologist is sedating. I don't work on children in this manner. If they need behavioral management to the point where they have to be sedated, then they're going to go to the pediatric dentist. And most of them, if they can't handle them with nitrous in the office, they're going to take them to the operating room and let the anesthesiologist sedate them.
Well, you've never given me Demerol. What's that all about in the first place? You think that's a behavior thing and not even necessary for the procedure?
I don't even prescribe Demerol. Like, it's nothing I've ever prescribed. I would not use it as a sedative medication. And I am not personally trained to use Demerol as a sedative medication. That's beyond the level of sedation I provide.
All right. Well, thanks for a little bit of insight. I mean, I feel a little bit better. I get concerned that, your kids need to be safe in all these facets, but it sounds like something that's super duper rare. So thank you, Dennis Paul from Bug Tussle, for giving us an assist on that. 800-288-9227. I have some response from your neighbors I'll share on the deadly dentist in Fort Worth coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. A deadly dentist in Fort Worth kills one of her 4-year-old patients. Do we have to be worried about the dentist now? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Before I get to the phones here, I'd like to go ahead and point out, let me do my annoying Austrian economist thing where I show you that all this licensing and regulation and the certification of the schools and having the proper tests be taken and whatnot didn't save this 4-year-old girl's life. What's the point of all of it? The point is so this doesn't happen. Because I say when we need to get rid of like government licensing and we need to get rid of like government telling you what you have to do, what hoops you have to jump through to be an XY, whatever your chosen profession is. These things are better left to the private sector. And no one's going to really point that out because that doesn't actually help anybody's cause but my own. Just like to go ahead and point that out. That what just like the cyclosporiasis, whatever, the diarrhea outbreak. I'm told that we can't get rid of the FDA and the USDA and food inspections and whatnot from the government because they would just kill us. Well, we're getting sick anyway. We're still getting explosive diarrhea. It doesn't stop it. You mean legislation is not a magic force field around you to protect you from bad things? No, it absolutely is not. Any more than gun control stops you from getting shot. We'll talk about that on another show, though. I got some great callers here, I think. Chris and Keller, you're next up on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, I was just going to say, not that it's any excuse, but I wonder if Demerol wasn't the drug that was intended to be used, and that's why it was such a high lethal dose. An example of that would be 100 milligrams of Celebrex, as an NSAID, that's equal to 500 milligrams of naproxen, also an NSAID, is equal to 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, or Motrin. So if you were meaning to give Motrin, but accidentally gave Celebrex, you'd be giving 8 times the normal dose.
Yeah, I didn't keep up with any of that.
I wonder if there's something like that.
I'm sorry, Chris. I just couldn't keep up with that math. So you think it might have been she just wrote the wrong prescription?
Yeah, because if she was giving, if you're trying to use 800 milligrams of Motrin, that would be perfectly acceptable. You could use Celebrex to treat the same thing, but you would only use 100 milligrams.
Well, let me give you the duality here, the both sides of my thinking on that, because I don't know, and I've never been a dentist or written a prescription. But if it is, it's a human endeavor, and so inevitably there will be mistakes. However, no one else has made a mistake like this in your entire life, so I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah, it's just the only way I could think of that you would use twice the lethal dose for an adult on a child is if you're just using a different drug that had a different potency.
No. Here, look, cynical butthead James. Let him talk for a second. This isn't my main thought, but this is part of the possibilities here. This is a pediatric dentist who you go to, and she doesn't want to deal with them waking up. She doesn't want to deal with the bad behavior. And so she gives them a big dose so she doesn't have to deal with it. And she's probably done this 100 times before to even 4-year-olds that are that small, and they went through it just fine. She probably started off with the correct dose and just kept upping it so they wouldn't wake up, or if she took too long, or out of an abundance of caution and not caring. And it's probably something she's done on the regular for a long time, and she just found, I don't know, a compromised person or someone with kidney issues, or I don't know, but it's not good.
No, it's not. But to have that high dose, I mean, if you just wanted to really snowball a kid and have them completely out, half the adult dose would do that. Because it's by weight. So a 4-year-old's going to weigh, 35, 40 pounds, full-grown adult, 170. Even half the adult dose would have them completely snowballed.
Well, Chris and Keller, I don't know enough about doses, but that sounds right. That sounds right to me, Chris. Thank you.
Yep.
Ken in Arlington, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, talking about the deadly dentist.
I'm wondering about the resident status, because when this was in 2004, my dad had a rental in Branson, Missouri, but the Skaggs Medical Center up there was honoring medical degrees from foreign countries. 4 out of every 10 of those doctors was from a foreign country, and they had a foreign medical certificate. And I'm just thinking that if she's a dentist, I don't know if it's a legitimate dentist or not, got her training outside the country and knew what she was doing of,
look, Ken,
and all that other stuff.
I think you'll agree. Her name is Chriselle So there's no one from another country. Well, I don't want to say no one, but it's the more likely scenario is that she's a native. She is a black female, the doctor, and so that's kind of a quirky African American name. So and there's nothing wrong with that, but the speculation that happens under the comment section, and this is terrible because a 4-year-old girl died here, and it's not really a good time for scoring political points. But people were pointing out, well, was she a DEI hire? Was she a DEI student? Was she a DEI admission into dental school? So
I'd bring in the question of the status. First of all, the status of if she's from a foreign country, because I mean, just because I don't know the name, if it's a typical name or anything like that. I mean, if you listen to Chris Crock, he would say, "Oh, remember that word? He did that stint." Oh, I had a friend. His name was Listerine. You know how they name their kids different, screwed up names. But that's what I would be questioning. That if she got her medical degree outside the country or a dental degree, I'd bring that into question.
well, look, her name is Chriselle Hemphill. I'm pretty sure she's local. You're bringing up a valid case, but I don't think it applies here. Is all I'm saying.
Well, hemp hill is, I mean, if you go into these other countries and stuff like that, hemp hill is what I think it's in Zimbabwe or Kenya.
No, come on,
they do
Ken.
have American.
It's a black person with an English name.
Well,
she's an American. She's one of us. You're right to be skeptical of foreign degrees and licensing, but on this one, good call though, Ken. I mean, you didn't know that before you called. I hope that answered it for you. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll give you some more My Hot Opinions on the deadly dentist in Fort Worth coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. No, you don't have to be worried about sending your kid to the dentist. This is a rarity. You're probably fine. Probably. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Remember the WBAP morning show whenever you wake up. But if you're just joining us, I'll play the report real quick. A Fort Worth dentist is arrested for what seems to be getting about 10 things wrong on a 4-year-old.
Chris, police just arrested this dentist this afternoon. She's charged with injury to a child and the death of a 4-year-old girl. Police say the girl died of a lethal overdose of opioid medication the dentist gave her before a procedure. Aitana Arriaga died back in April in Fort Worth. Investigators say the medical examiner told them she had twice the amount of Demerol in her system compared to what's safe for adults. An arrest affidavit says Dr. Chriselle Hemphill told investigators the girl lost consciousness when she started to wake her up from sedation. The dentist said she tried to give her a drug to reduce the effect of the sedative, but did not give her Narcan, which could have stopped the opioid responsible for her death. The little girl died at the hospital. Police say Hemphill failed to recognize the problem and didn't give the girl proper life-saving measures. And they say her pediatrician told investigators she didn't think the little girl even needed the procedure in the first place. Hemphill is still in jail awaiting bond.
That report from WFAA. Now, we had my dentist come on from Bug Tussle, Paul, say that he's only heard of one other death in a dentist chair in his entire life, just to give you an idea of how overwhelmingly rare this is. And I was just making sure that wasn't the gas that killed him, because I'm a big fan of getting the old dentist gas. And when you go to Paul and you ask Paul to step on it, Paul will step on it, y'all. Paul will not go easy on you. He knows I'm a big old 230-pound guy. And by the time I leave, get out of the dentist chair at Paul's place, I'm having myself a good time. All right, focus, people. Back to the phones. This is Cleo in Plano. Hey, welcome back to the James Show, Cleo.
Hey, James. Okay, so I know you don't want to talk about the dosage thing, but I'm going to give you a personal story.
The what thing?
This woman may not have known so I'm going to give you a personal story. You don't like the dosage thing, but I'm going to give you a personal story from me.
Oh, dosage thing. Dosage. Okay.
Yes. Okay. She may have been tired. She may have been exhausted. She may not have been able to reverse the effects because she didn't realize the amount of medication she gave. Long time ago, probably 40 years ago, I used to be a vet tech, the senior technician. I had to come back at 3 weeks postpartum because someone quit. And they said, oh, you're going to get fired too, even though you're doing a good job, because we need to have, at least 2 people here. So we had a dog that was attacked by another dog, and I'll never forget it because it's the only animal I ever blotched. It was a 4-pound Yorkie. I was supposed to give it 0.1 phenobarbital. I was so exhausted and tired, I gave that dog 1 ml. So I tried to reverse it based on the dosage that
What does that do? Is that like make the dog trip?
At the time? No, it puts them to sleep. Phenobarbital is also what they use in human euthanasia, but it's also a common anesthetic used also by humans, and veterinary medicine is still used. But if you're not careful, you can stop something from breathing.
Wait, did you kill that dog?
So I didn't realize what I did. Yes, I did. I killed the dog. Yes, I'll admit that. I'll fully admit that.
Oh, my God.
I was written up. I was on probation. But in all fairness, I did have to come back at 3 weeks postpartum. My boss came over to my house all nice with his wife, gave me a gift, and basically said in 2 weeks, hey, I know you thought you were going to get 6 weeks off, but so-and-so quit. If you don't come back too, we're going to have to replace you. Sorry. Here's your little gift. Bye. Have a good day. So I was like on fume, and I was just really sleepy, and I couldn't focus. And I thought about what I did, and you have to write down, what you use of that. And I looked at what was in the bottle, and I looked at what was left in the bottle and what I put down, and that's when it dawned on me what happened, because we couldn't figure it out.
All right.
Because I was literally considered the best there was to do that. So she may have been tired. That's not an excuse. It's not, but that may have been what had happened. And the reason she couldn't reverse it is because she really didn't realize what she had done until after it happened.
That sounds very plausible, Cleo. No, it's an explanation, not an excuse. No, great story. Thank you, Cleo. Now we go to John in Dallas. Hey, John, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
And good afternoon to you. The problem with this Well, first of all, let me say I'm a physician. I'm a critical care physician, have been since the late 70s. That's the intensive care unit, and we put people to sleep and wake them up all the time. The real issue here, by the way, also, this business of children dying under dental care was much more common in the 70s. I've heard of it several times.
Wow, shut up. I haven't heard of this in my entire life, but I haven't really been paying attention, and you probably have.
The early 70s. Now, when I was in school and in training in 71, 72, 73, about every year or two, some dentist would knock some kid off in his office by giving him a general anesthetic, which is essentially, now, Demerol is not a general anesthetic. Usually it is an opioid. It's a synthetic opioid like morphine. But the real issue here is standard of care, and that is, what should she have been doing? And the problem is, she violated the standard of care by giving a drug that can affect respiration and apparently having no one available or herself not being able to manage an airway.
Yeah.
That is to get a tube in her and or reverse the drug she gave.
Hey, John, I got like 15 seconds. I just looked up.
Okay. But anyway, I think it's a standard of care thing. Most dentists won't give a general anesthetic in their office anymore for exactly this reason.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And thanks for sharing that you've heard of more dentists killing their patients before, because I've been kind of ignorant on the subject. DFW relocation specialist put a couple of comments on the YouTube feed right now. She said the doctors from Louisiana got her training at Mahari Medical in Nashville. And she said if you read her reviews online, other parents have said they heard their kids screaming for their life. So that's probably why she over-sedated this one. Interesting theory from an online commenter. More on the deadly dentist in Fort Worth next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Listen, I have one more call to take on this Dennis situation, and then we're going to move on. But we're going to be staying on local news for a while because there's just so much going on. But get ready for the... I had to learn a new word today. Cyclosporasis. I like saying sporasis because that's a bad word. Cyclosporasis. Anyway, you'll hear my thoughts on this outbreak and why I'm not concerned about it. But for those of you just joining us, a dentist in Fort Worth put a 4-year-old girl under with Demerol. Couldn't bring her back up. Didn't respond correctly according to the police affidavit and the reports in the news. 4-year-old girl ended up dead. And it seems to be something so rare you probably shouldn't worry about it. But if you have kids and you're picking out a pediatric dentist and they want to put your kid under, maybe you want to look into that a little bit more. Kelly in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, how you doing? You there?
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
Hey, great. Yeah, man, I just had wanted to comment on a caller a couple of calls ago. The lady who had killed the dog accidentally, she said.
Cleo.
You know? Yeah. I just, man, I watch your show every day, going home, love the show. But, man, I could not stand the tone that she was so lighthearted about killing this dog because she came into work sleepy and gave it too much. And it was almost like she was giggling about it. And I just wanted to say I found that disgusting because, hey, that's someone's family member. I love dog. I'm a huge dog.
Well, Kelly, this will probably make you feel better. Cleo is a known entity on the James Show. She's a semi-regular caller, and she works with a lot of events and political happenings around town. So I've known Cleo for probably 6 years or so. She works in the medical industry now, so she does not take this kind of stuff lightly. That was a nervous, uncomfortable laughter coming from her, not that she enjoyed killing a tiny dog. That was just her being nervous and not knowing how to handle it in a public sphere.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, people do, have the nervous giggles when they're nervous about so I totally understand that then.
Well, I'm glad you called in instead of just turning the channel and writing me off. I appreciate that, giving us a chance to explain ourselves, Kelly.
Oh, you bet, yeah, and that's a great explanation. So I could definitely understand that because I know people, against their will, they are nervous and do that giggling, kind of. Like a little laugh giggle, but it's, yeah, you're right.
Well, I know Cleo enough to know that she was very embarrassed telling that story. So she was giving you a moment of vulnerability. But thank you for calling instead of just writing us off, Kelly. Aren't we all mature today? Isn't this great? All right, well, let's be immature because this next story is about explosive diarrhea, WFAA.
We've been talking about it for weeks now, the rising cases of cyclosporiasis across the nation. There are now thousands of cases confirmed or being investigated, and that includes dozens of infections in North Texas. In Michigan, where the largest number of cases have been reported, Taco Bell locations are moving some items from their menu. The fast food joint stopped adding lettuce, cilantro, onions, pico de gallo, and guacamole to its dishes, while federal and state investigators try to pinpoint the source of this illness.
We have these outbreaks every once in a while, and they never get me. And I think I just have an Olympic digestive system. And because I put my digestive system through a lot. Like you people that go out there and you're like, I'm going to eat so many grams of fiber, and I'm going to eat my leafy greens, and I'm going to have nutrient-dense vegetables, and I'm going to stay away from ultra-processed foods and fast foods and sugars and fats and whatever. Not me. I eat like trash. You understand? I eat like a raccoon. Just open up the trash lid and whatever's in there, I stick my face in and start chewing. But my digestive system is probably stronger because of it. I probably ingest so many germs. I'm not real good about washing my hands. I don't really care. Sometimes I just pick a fork up out of the sink. I don't care if Miss Parker had used it or one of the 18 kids had used it or if a dog had used it. I don't care. Because of my lack of some basic hygiene, I get exposed. I necessarily have to be exposed to a lot more contagions than I otherwise would be. And I think that's paid off because I was shocked The first time I went to Mexico, not a border town, not like Juarez, but when I went to Cancun, I drank the water and I was fine. And like when you left the resort, you drink the water, I was fine. A bunch of people I was with didn't do so well. We went again. I had to go to a wedding for someone in Miss Parker's family down in Merida. Drank the water for a week. And the only thing that made me sick was the tequila. I had way too much of 1800 one night. It's very hungover. But also, I'm not too worried about it because I'm not eating a whole lot of lettuce anyway, whether there was a cyclosporiasis, whatever. I don't know all these words, y'all, but I'm trying. So, yeah, a lot of people are really concerned about this. They're cutting out the lettuce at the Taco Bell. You know, I've just learned there's only so much bandwidth that I have for fear news. And I don't have enough bandwidth to be scared about lettuce. I just don't. Y'all go ahead and you have your scary outbreaks. Oh, look, there's been a recall from some lunch meat, or there's been another outbreak from some. I never care about that. Just whatever it is, I'm going to eat it. Worst case scenario, I get the runs. Whoop-de-doo. It's not even that bad anyway. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk about this death from a house fire at a hoarder's house. And I guess that was an issue that might have cost somebody their life. Details coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Does the song make you think of Dazed and Confused? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. A strange death happened. I do not celebrate this. I am so curious about this weird compulsion of hoarding, where I'm not sure if I've ever heard of anyone dying of hoarding before. But WFAA had the story this morning. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this because you saw this. You probably seen Hoarders, or at least clips of the TV show Hoarders from 10 whatever years ago on TV. But my question is, how common is this? I think this is a lot more common than I give it credit for.
Yeah, Matt, we just got the update from Fort Worth Fire, and they confirmed one person did die in this home behind me. They said they got the call around 2 in the morning. When they arrived, they saw the smoke, the fire from the front. So they made entry. They were able to find one person in the back, bring them out, and able to get them the treatment they need. They were taken to a hospital by helicopter, but the second person they found, they also had to physically pull out of the home, and they were not able to save that person. Also, with the fire and the effort to get them out, 2 firefighters also needed to have a minor treatment, they say. They're expected to be okay, but they did get a little bit overwhelmed, not only with the smoke and flames, but the physical activity it takes to get 2 people out of the home. And also complicating things more, I talked to the spokesperson with Fort Worth Fire out here, and they described this as a hoarder home, very packed and cluttered on the inside. And this is how he explained that can complicate the rescue efforts.
It was what we call a hoarder home. So a lot of stuff just stacked up, doorways, windows blocked off, with just stuff that people collect over the years.
Okay, so first, my first call out, are you one of these hoarders? And I don't mean do you still have like your old Nokia brick phone. I mean, do you have stuff packed up to where you have a trail that you have to walk through your house? If you happen to be one of those and you don't mind airing your business out in the public sphere, please give me a call, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. My second request, since I doubt these people will call, is somebody in your close orbit, one of these people. And again, I want a for real hoarder. I want stacks of stuff. I want trash. I want food stuff rotting. I want the path through the house. Because I joke, and of course it's a spectrum here. Because I think the lowest level of hoarding, like Miss Parker is probably the lowest level of hoarder. Hi, Miss Parker. I have to have a rule with her. Like, if you're not going to ever wear that dress again, throw it away. Because she will say, I don't think I'm ever going to wear this dress. And then she will put it back in her closet. And I'll say, well, if that's the decision, why aren't you putting it in the trash? I don't know. Maybe I can give it to somebody, or give it to Goodwill, or give it to the kid. Look, throw it. If you know you're not going to use it, throw it away. The next level of hoarder is probably Miss Parker's mom. Now, Miss Parker's mom doesn't want to throw anything away that she thinks could be useful, but she doesn't keep trash. She doesn't pile up trash on the counters and on the floor, and there's not a walkway through her house. But to give you an example of the next level hoarder, for Miss Parker's mom, well, I'm really airing them out today, aren't I? Is a couple years ago, her mom had died, Miss Parker's grandmother. And so she was in her 90s. And when you go through a 90-year-old's house, you find some weird things. And we got a couple of boxes of stuff that my mother-in-law thought we would want or maybe could use. And in the box, I kid you not, was an old caller ID box, like from a landline phone. For like a little telephone cord, you had to plug in the telephone cord in the back, and then you had to take another telephone cord and plug it in the back of the ID box and then run it into your phone. The other one went to the wall. She had one of those. Why didn't you throw that away? Well, I don't know. Maybe you knew someone that could use it, or you could use it. Who has a landline? It's already, because this was 2 years ago, it's already 2024. Who's going to get a landline for the rest of my life? I am not going to need this, and I'm not going to know anybody that needs this. This is closer to a museum artifact than useful. But man, I saw these people on TV, and I remember talking about when the show came out, and I had a few friends in my close orbit that knew somebody like this. There was a sponsor when I was on a previous radio station. His sister was one of these people, and she was in her 60s, and he described it just the way it sounds on TV. And he hadn't even seen the TV show. I was like, oh my God, are you talking about Hoarders, the TV show? He's like, no, I'm talking about Linda. That's not her real name. And he described that she just, like, she didn't throw any junk mail away. She didn't throw away any coupons. And you could go to her, and if you went to her house, you could just spend your entire time going through it like, hey, this coupon's expired. Can I throw that away? And she'd be like, ugh! Like, she would feel antsy about throwing away an expired coupon, as if she even uses coupons when she goes. Anyways, it's just really weird because I try and think not about the practicality of it, because this isn't irrational behavior. What makes these people do this? And I don't know. People like to accumulate stuff. Like children like to accumulate stuff. If you want to get a baby's attention, try and hand him something and see if he takes it from you. We all have this innate urge to gather resources. But if you never, learn how to get out of that, or it becomes a compulsion of some sort, like the hoarder thing just fascinates me. Like, how can you live like that? Mike in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yes. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go, Mike.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I grew up in a house like this, and my mother was a hoarder, and so was my father, and so was my grandmother. My grandmother's house was really bad, but they came from a time where you didn't throw away anything. Everything was still good. It could be used for something else or used later, and with a little bit of maybe some mental illness, depression or whatever.
It would have to be mental illness, not to insult your parents, but yeah, there has to be a tinge of that.
No, it absolutely is. I've come to terms with that. A little bit of mental illness, and no telling what the mental illness is, but it gets out of hand real quick. You save stuff because you're going to use it later, or you don't have the money to replace it. They came from a time where you didn't throw stuff out, and it gets out of hand real quick. So,
have they gotten any better?
Well, all of them have since passed. I mean, years ago. So, it transferred over to me, I think, a little bit for a while, because I started collecting all sorts of things and realized what was happening and corrected that action.
Yeah, there's something weird.
There's it never got better.
A lot of us have a collecting instinct. People like to collect baseball cards or collect the latest Happy Meal toys or collect them all. But yeah, this seems to be sort of a compulsion in that direction. Now, how bad was it? Did y'all have paths that you had to walk through the house? You did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There were paths, and luckily with my mother, she was very organized. Most everything was in boxes, labeled, but they were stacked floor to ceiling, and in every room and in every closet.
Okay.
And it was insane.
But doesn't what's that like when you're dating a girl in high school, and can you even bring her to your house without being judged?
You can, but at first you don't want them to come in until they lie and say they need to use the restroom, and then you let them in, and then you get married, and 32 years later they're still your wife. So,
hey, well, that's a happy ending. All right. So, how bad is your house now?
Is it bad? But it looks like the inside of an antique mall, because my wife and I both collect things, but it's not hoarder type. It's just we like knickknacks. I like baseball cards. I used to have an obsession with old speakers and stereos, and I've had my issues, but I've got that under control. So
thank you for sharing your story. That's so cool. All right, that was Mike in Dallas. I have a couple more hoarding stories. Larry divorced a hoarder. I can't wait to hear that next. Someone else is going to air out their mother-in-law. Oh, I like this. This is going to be a good show. I'm James Parker, 800-288-9227. This is News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, a house fire may have been exacerbated and caused or contributed to deaths because it was the house of a hoarder. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. It just happened this week. One of your neighbors had a house caught on fire, and the rescue efforts were hampered by the fact that you couldn't freely walk through the house. You had to follow these paths, and it ended up maybe getting someone sent to the hospital and a couple of firefighters getting hurt as well. Then I put the call out there to share your stories with the hoarding and how bad it can be, because I think we all understand this is a spectrum, and there's people who like to collect a little too much stuff, and then there's the full-blown hoarders that you can't even walk through their house. And I just wanted to hear some of your stories. Man, we already got a couple of cool ones. I think you're about to get some more. Apparently, a lot of you have had at least been adjacent to hoarders. Let's go to Larry. This is Larry in Hallettsville. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Are you in Hallettsville right now?
Yes.
Brahmas.
Well, I'm not in town, Hallettsville, but no, I'm at my place.
Okay. Well, I mean, are you listening over the air? Are you listening on an app?
Oh, well, right now I'm listening to you on my phone, but yeah, I listen to you on iHeart.
Great. So tell me about your experience with hoarders.
Well, first of all, let me address the fire department. I served as a volunteer firefighter. So I'd probably say all fire departments, if they are aware of a hoarder's house, they have a list. Now, a firefighter is obligated to save someone if they think someone's in a burning home. Otherwise, they just go into defensive posture and just let it burn, because it's not worth risking a firefighter's life to fight a fire to save the structure.
Agreed. Okay. So tell me your personal experience with hoarders.
Yeah, poor thing. She hoarded herself right out of a house.
Who is she?
Couldn't even live there anymore.
Who is she?
My ex-wife.
You divorced a hoarder?
Correct.
So you lived with a hoarder?
Well, for about 20 years.
Was she a hoarder when you lived with her and you were constantly fighting it?
Oh, yeah. And it just progressively got worse. But the reason for my call is it's right now it's considered to be a psychological situation. And like you would expect, or what you were thinking about, it's much more pervasive than people realize. So my conclusion after all these years is that it's going to have to be treated more than just psychological, because it just gets to the point it's downright criminal, because it's not a victimless crime. I mean, my children suffer, I suffered, she suffered. Firefighters are subject to a bad situation if it catches on fire.
So how do we help these people? Do you have any wisdom on how to make the situation better, or what can fix them?
Nothing fixes it. I mean, there are psychiatrists that say it's treatable, but
well, see, we were kind of, I don't know if you were listening yesterday, Larry, but we had on Dr. Matt Chalmers, and we were talking about how GLP-1s and GLP-3s and these drugs that people are using to lose weight also help with addiction. He was also talking about how psychedelics can help with addictions, ayahuasca, DMT, psilocybin. This sounds like something that would be in that arena. If you treated this like an addiction and you gave them some of these other alternative treatments, maybe that could rope in and start helping some of these people too. What do you think?
Well, it's possible. I mean, it's worth a try.
But you didn't see her go through any therapies or drugs or treatments for that?
Oh, I went down every road I could possibly think of, and she was not cooperative.
Over 20 years, I bet you tried everything. Hey, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for the angle on with the firefighters, Steve. Very interesting stuff. This is Chris and Addison. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. What's your experience with hoarders, sir?
Yeah, my mother-in-law was a hoarder. One of her good friends actually died from hoarding. You were talking about death.
How?
She had a friend in Connecticut. It was like 2014 that had so much stuff that her house collapsed, and she was found like 2 weeks later or something like that. somebody did a welfare check on her, and they found her at the bottom. I think the first floor had collapsed with so much stuff on it. I don't remember all the details, but I think you can Google it.
That sounds vaguely familiar. Like she crashed in her basement and then she couldn't get out of the pile of crap and just eventually died. Maybe it was the same woman, or maybe this has happened multiple times, but that sounds vaguely familiar.
My mother-in-law had a 5,000 square foot house in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
That's big.
Literally paths. Like she's slept in one recliner in a guest room, and you could get to that room on the second floor and maybe to the bathroom, and that was about it. She lost her water froze one year, and she just stayed in the house. Went to her sister's house and brought 5-gallon buckets to flush the toilet, and the entire basement flooded, and she just left it, and it was really bad. She had her mental health issue is she would go to CVS and buy whatever's on sale, and come home and throw the bag of 15 toothbrushes in the corner. And when we tried to help her clean up her house for a reverse mortgage, I found about 85 bags of those dating back to 1985 in receipts, because they were still in the original bags thrown in the corner. And she had no interest in what they were. It was the buying it that was her.
Okay, so 2 quick questions, because I'm running out of time for this segment, Chris. So did she start out, like when you met her, was she normal and she progressively got worse?
When her husband passed away, I think he controlled some of it and kept her from doing too much. But, she had National Geographics, every one of them, since 1962. So, I think this is a long-term thing.
Yeah. Next question, Chris, is you said this killed her?
No. Well, she lost her house. The bank ended up taking it from the reverse. She got the reverse mortgage. We got that taken care of, but then she stopped paying the taxes on it, and they ended up condemning the house and all those stuff because of the water leak and stuff. So
where is she now?
She's in a state-controlled retirement home at the will of the state, and even her own daughter can't talk to her anymore. She just
is she a victim of trauma? Did she have some sort of, I don't know, something that triggered a PTSD? Because this sounds like the response or the behavior pattern of someone who's constantly scared or constantly worried about something.
You would think so. She was raised very silver spoon in hand. Her husband had $1 million when they retired, and she didn't have to work, but once I think something triggered when he was gone that just got substantially worse.
Well, dang, Chris, you made it all sad now. But thanks for sharing your story. On one hand, I'm making fun of these people. On the other hand, I really do feel sorry for them. Something is wrong, and they are not comfortable in their own skin. And I guess collecting stuff gives them a little bit of a dopamine hit that makes them feel better. We'll continue sharing the stories of your neighbors' experiences with hoarders. Now that's gotten somebody killed, maybe we should talk about this. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. When you were young and your car broke down, the chances were that you were just going to have to bite the bullet, go to the auto parts store and fix it yourself. And as you got older and you had the money and you didn't have the time, eventually you're like, I don't fix my car anymore. I pay someone to fix the car. When you first got a house, you probably made a whole lot of the repairs. Did you actually scrape off the paint and repaint the house? Because you're past that now. You have the money and you don't go get the cheapy paint and go do it yourself. In fact, it's time to upgrade. You've earned it. You've earned Rhino Shield. So you don't ever have to go through this painting process again. But look, not only do they do all the work for you, they do a much better job than you would ever do. They go prep the house. They fix everything. Like if you have a little wavy board or a little crack or a little leak or some of your soffit vents missing or something got chewed through, a little mouse hole, I don't know. But they fix everything up. Then they seal everything up. And then they do the primer, and then they do the nanoparticle coating, and it looks beautiful. And they do all the work for you, so you never have to go through that again. In fact, you'll never even have to go through Rhino Shield again, because once it's done, it is done. 25-year transferable warranty. Your house will look great. You won't have to lift a finger. In fact, it's even easier to pay for than ever, because they can put it on a low monthly payment for you too. So if your house needs to get fixed up, go to rhinoshielddfw.com. All right, prepare for some more weird stories about hoarders. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Good to see you again. If you're just joining us, a house fire in Fort Worth was exacerbated because the house was occupied by hoarders. Might have gotten somebody killed, might have gotten some firefighters injured. And I think we have all either seen an episode of the old TV show Hoarders, or at least some clips. And I'm starting to think this is more common than me or you suspect. And so I've had people call in with their hoarder stories, and my jaw has been dropping with every call. Don't even bother calling in. The lines are full. David in Weatherford, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your experience with hoarding.
Yeah, I'm actually, what you call it, the next level hoarder. Did. And I was a mechanic, I used to be a mechanic anyway, and so I all kinds of useful stuff, what I consider useful stuff, I've taken to where I label my tins with dates, and I just don't even look at them anymore. I just throw them out after like 2 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're saying you are a hoarder?
Oh yeah.
Do you have the pathway through your house?
No, my wife keeps that in check, but my shop and my office is loaded with just old computer parts, truck parts, and things like that, and things that I've worked on. And like that, now it's gotten to where I put them in totes and I label them with a date. And if after a year or two, if I haven't looked in it, I just throw the whole thing away.
Well, that sounds like you have the hoarding impulse, but you're also able to sort of regulate yourself.
Yeah, but if I open up the tin, open up the tote, and I look into it, and then I start going through it.
And then you don't want to throw it away?
Yeah, and then I don't want to throw it away because it's potentially useful.
Well, that's really cool how you've worked out a system to sort of overcome this. Now, where does this come from? Like, did your parents get divorced when you were a kid and you and your mom had to like live in a car and so you're scared to throw anything away because you had that shocking moment of poverty? Or is this trauma based? Where did this come from?
Well, I mean, we grew up poor, yeah, but I see potential in everything. I make things and build things, but I don't know. I have a hard time throwing stuff away.
Well, I hope what you said can help someone else out there, because maybe if you use the David and Weatherford method, you can sort of overcome it. My tip that I have is it used to be not be something I had to deal with because I would move every 6 months because, you get an apartment lease for 6 months, maybe every year. And so you end up throwing stuff away, anything that you don't need every time you move because you don't want to move. And my rule was if I haven't used it or worn it since the last time I moved, it got thrown away. And so then I had to put in the 2-year rule. If I have a shirt that I haven't worn in 2 years, I throw it away. And the only exception to that is my tux, because I don't wear a tux every 2 years. In fact, kind of rare, but I do have a tux. This is David in Carrollton. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. My brother and his wife in Indianapolis are severe hoarders.
Define severe.
And it's going to actually kill her. They're about 60 years old. When you go into their house, you have to walk a path to get to the master bedroom, and it's maybe 2 feet wide.
Wow.
And to get to the bathroom, the boxes of stuff are stacked like as high as they can reach, almost to the ceiling. And I went up for a funeral a few months ago of an aunt that died, and I went to their house before we went to the funeral service, and their kitchen table is stacked halfway to the ceiling, every inch with stuff, and they've got 2 chairs they can sit in and hold their plates to eat. And when they go to the grocery, she'll buy all of her stuff. It's mostly her, but my brother's kind of got caught up in it. If she likes a certain kind of lemonade, she'll buy 10 gallons of it. She'll say, I want all that there is on the shelf. If she has certain dinners she likes, she'll be like, buy everything they have. That's the one I like. I want to make sure I have it. And I was going to fix a cake for them, and I opened some of the cabinets, and they had like 10 boxes of flour, 5-pound bag things, and I'm like, it's all expired. It's like 5 years old, and she buys all this stuff that she thinks she'll use, but she's paranoid she'll run out. And then when they go out to dinner, she'll see the menu and she'll order, say, 2 appetizers and go on and on about how they're both her favorites, and she'll order 2 entrees for herself, and she can't even eat half of it. And then she'll box it up and take it home and cram it in the fridge, and she'll sit there half the night trying to gorge herself before it goes bad.
That is so interesting. Is she, I don't mean to be mean here because I'm not judging her. Just, is she huge? Is she very overweight because of this?
She's 300 pounds. The doctor told her that she probably won't live 2 more years if she doesn't change her habits. And my sister's a nurse, and we've told her, you know what's going to happen. It's going to kill you. And she said, I know, but I want what I want, and I want my way. And my brother just lets her have her way. But yeah, we know we're going to lose her in the next year or two, because it's not only hoarding items in the house, and the sofa, there's nowhere to sit. If you go in their house, the sofa's stacked to the ceiling.
That's like the people on TV.
Yeah, exactly is. They're absolutely that bad, but she's also killing her health because she hoards food the same way. And, I mean, my sister's a nurse and said, you know what it's doing? And she said, I do, and I don't care. I'm going to do what I want till I'm gone.
It's very much an addiction.
So-
It's almost like, hey, it's not crack. That's what I have to tell my kids about video games or watching dumb stuff on the phone. It's like, it's not crack. You don't have to like totally ignore and screw over the rest of your life because you're focused on this so much. Man, this is some wild stuff. Well, we have more stories coming up on hoarding. I have an update on the Iran situation. This will be the 5th or 6th night. We started a new bombing campaign, and you'll get updated on both. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we're talking about hoarders and bombing Iran. I'm James Parker. It's the News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Now, I'm not taking any calls on the Iran situation unless you're over there and you can report what the bombs are doing. But starting at 1 o'clock today, Texas time, there was a new wave of strikes, and it was announced by U.S. Central Command at 2 o'clock Texas time. So they're saying this is the sixth consecutive night to further degrade Iranian military capabilities. Also, earlier this morning, they put up a couple of videos. One of them was, this stuff looks so cool. It looks AI. There's a F-35A stealth fighter, and it was being refueled in the air by what they call a KC-135, one of those refueling jets like in the old Top Gun game from the Nintendo. And then they also put up a video montage of some of the recent strikes. I guess it was from this week. But if you like seeing stuff blow up, follow U.S. Central Command on Twitter. I'm not seeing a whole lot of other details about that. I'm thinking we might get some more details during Trump's speech tonight. He's supposed to be interrupting prime time, and we will carry it live and then have some live analysis after the fact. But the big money is on the fact that this speech is probably going to be centered around something having to do with election integrity, which I interpret as either talking about how the 2020 election had some irregularities or something about the SAVE Act going forward. But that's pretty much all we got. The other big story is the one about hoarders, because it got somebody killed. There was a death that was exacerbated. A house fire was exacerbated by a hoarder, and that may have led to more injuries than absolutely necessary. Here is the report from WFAA.
Yeah, Matt, we just got the update from Fort Worth Fire, and they confirm one person did die in this home behind me. They said they got the call around 2 in the morning. When they arrived, they saw the smoke, the fire from the front, so they made entry. They were able to find one person in the back, bring them out, and able to get them the treatment they need. They were taken to a hospital by helicopter, but the second person they found, they also had to physically pull out of the home, and they were not able to save that person. Also, with the fire and the effort to get them out, 2 firefighters also needed to have a minor treatment, they say. They're expected to be okay, but they did get a little bit overwhelmed, not only with the smoke and flames, but the physical activity it takes to get 2 people out of the home. And also complicating things more, I talked to the spokesperson with Fort Worth Fire out here, and they described this as a hoarder home, very packed and cluttered on the inside. And this is how he explained that can complicate the rescue efforts.
It was what we call a hoarder home. So a lot of stuff just stacked up, doorways, windows blocked off with just stuff that people collect over the years.
Someone had asked on a Facebook message earlier, what's the difference between people who collect stuff and hoarders? Well, it's the definition for any addiction, whether it's crack or sugar or hoarding. Continued behaviors in the face of negative consequences are when it starts being called an addiction. If you do something compulsively, but there's no negative consequences, I wouldn't call that an addiction. You're not addicted to breathing. You do that every day. Ron in Bedford, you're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James.
Hey, Ron.
How you doing? Love the show. Agree with you 90% of the time. The other 10%, I respect your opinion.
Thanks.
I was a firefighter and paramedic for 23 years. I've been in fires where people were hoarders, and it's awful for the firefighters. You go in, and it was a middle of the night call. Middle of the night calls, the first thought is life safety. That's your first thought.
Okay.
There's gonna be somebody in there because it's the middle of the night. But whenever it's a heavy fire load when there's hoarders, especially when there's stuff stacked up. You'll be crawling through the fire. Things will fall off and land on your back. And you'll shake it off and keep going. So bless the hearts of the Fort Worth firefighters. They'll run through this, and that's the way it is. And hoarding is, it's not bad like a drug addiction, but it is bad because it's such a heavy fire load, and there's such a chance for a fire.
Yeah, because if you're collecting all kinds of pieces of paper and flammable stuff, and you're just leaving around the all your rooms, that gives it a lot more fuel. Now, let me ask a question that may sound dumb, but I bet you a bunch of people don't know the answer to this because I don't. When you go to like these Fort Worth firefighters that responded to this hoarder house in the middle of the night, by the time you get there, if there's a big fire, is the power usually out? You know, because it would change a lot if you can't turn on the lights and you can't see anything, and you're in a hoarder's house. Because, you know, everywhere you turn, you're bumping into something.
You're not going to be able to see anything, especially in a house like that. That's why you'll see firefighters crawling. Okay, if you can't see your feet, get down.
Right.
Heat rises, heat pushes back down on you, and then you get into, if it gets hot enough, you get into flashover conditions, smoke explosions, things like that. So you get down and you learn to control the fire. Well, when there's such a heavy fire load, there's such a heavy smoke, it's hard to find the seat of the fire. And you've got to find the seat of the fire, which is where it originated, knock it out, and then go from there.
How often did you see hoarder homes? Because none of us really have a good idea of how prevalent or how frequent this compulsion is.
I've seen them three times that really come to memory. One was a lady that she actually killed herself in front of us. She was a hoarder. There was problems. She poured gas on herself she set a fire.
Oh my
She
God.
set the fire on the second floor. We were going in looking for that. Looked over, there was a lady. We were screaming, get out. She poured gas on herself and lit herself off.
What was that about? Ron, why are you telling me hellish stories? You're going to give me nightmares. What'd she do that for?
She died, so I will never know. That's
God, you had to go through this as a firefighter? You had to watch someone self-immolate?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for your service. I feel like you're a military veteran if you've had to see all that. Round of applause for...
I'm not. I was never in the military.
I know, but it feels like the same way. Like I have a big appreciation for people who have a job that exposes them to trauma. I mean, that's one reason why we hold first responders in such high regard. Thank you, Ron in Bedford. But if you're a paramedic, think of all the awful mangled bodies you see from car wrecks or whatever. Firemen see crazy things. Police see crazy things. Our soldiers, our military veterans see crazy things. ER doctors see crazy things. Prison guards. There's all kinds of people out there who just have chosen a career that is necessarily going to expose you to traumatic things. And that's something that... I mean, that's one of the bright, shining aspects of my job. You know, it doesn't pay that well, and there's no job security, and half the country or half the people listening think you're a racist, sexist, bigot, and homophobe. But I don't have to expose myself to that. I don't have to watch someone self-immolate. No one's ever shot at me yet. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, I'll pull it together a little bit. We'll discuss preview of what's going to happen with Trump's speech tonight. And Carolyn Levitt had a press conference where she answered a couple questions I think you'd be interested in. So keep it on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. President Trump will be giving a primetime address to the nation that you will hear live on WBAP. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And we think the rumor mill had been saying yesterday and this morning that this is going to have something to do with the 2020 election, but not an official word. Now, Carolyn Levitt, the White House spokesman, finally came back. She's been on baby leave. She had another kiddo. And in her press conference today, I think if you just go lean into this, you can learn or at least glean what's coming tonight. Because when she goes out there, before she starts taking questions, she lays out the talking points. She lays out of all the things in the world that are going on. This is what the White House wants you to know the most. And so she comes out, and the first thing she started with, I mean, she comes out there, hey, it's great to be back, yada, yada, yada. But when she got into the meat and potatoes of her prepared statements, the first thing she brought up was the good economic news, or at least the economic news that was good. Not necessarily the same thing, but
Tuesday's CPI report confirmed what President Trump predicted. Prices are falling, and this administration's economic policies are working. Inflation dropped 0.4% last month, beating expectations and marking the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. Prices fell, including for gasoline, electricity, non-prescription drugs, car insurance, medical care services, and hotels, delivering relief for American working families.
Nice. Continue talking about the economy and just throwing out a bunch of stats. The next topic, which you can tell the first most important thing on her mind that the White House wants you to know, economy, good. Next one, immigration, good.
For the 14th straight month, this administration has released 0 illegal aliens into the United States. Again, let me reiterate, the 14th straight month, not a single illegal criminal alien has been entered into our country, released into our country by this administration. Illegal crossings in June remained at historic lows, and southwest border apprehensions are down 94% compared to the same period under the Biden administration. These numbers speak for themselves. Thanks to President Trump's strong leadership and unwavering commitment to law enforcement, America has the most secure border we have ever had in our nation's history.
So that's Carolyn Levitt, and that was said at about 12:30 our time. The problem is when she went out and said that, not a whole lot of people are paying attention because Trump's not saying it. And it was the middle of the day when most people are at work or otherwise occupied doing their things. So I imagine he's going to come out and he's going to cover both of those topics, and then he's going to spend the bulk of the time telling us something new about the situation with the elections. Now, election 2020, did they find out something new about that? There's an investigation that's happening in the Georgia situation. Are people going to go to jail? But I don't know. It could be he's looking forward, and there's some new information about the SAVE Act. Or he could be spelling out all this problems that happened with the election that just happened in California, the Spencer Pratt one. This could be a big push for voter ID. It could be a whole smattering of all of these election issues. But when it came time for the question and answer session, I found it very frustrating because the number one thing that the media asked about, I think there were 7 questions on it. It was the story about the corrupt teleprompter runner. Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you hear this story? I heard this on Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. The main teleprompt operator for Trump had won over $100,000 doing prop bets on like Polymarket or Kalshi, or I don't even know which platform it was. But since he knew the content of the speeches ahead of time, he would go and take a bet on, here's $100 on whether or not he says, absolutely or truly or bigly, something like that. 7 questions were asked about that dude. We're in a war. You get that. How crazy is it that we found one corrupt thing that happened within the Trump administration? They've already dealt with him. He's been put on administrative leave without pay. They have an ethics clause anyway. That's what y'all were most concerned about. The second most frequent question was criticizing the content of the speech, and the speech hasn't even been delivered yet. They are just preemptively criticizing it before they even hear it. And here's kind of an example of that. I think this is the only part of the press conference left that you want to hear.
We'll get to the rest of all of you. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Welcome back to the briefing room, and congrats on your baby.
Thank you.
2 questions,
Sure.
if I may.
Oh, wait. Hang on. That's the wrong one. This is the right one.
Caroline, welcome back.
Good to see you.
Likewise. To the degree that this speech tonight is about elections past, not elections upcoming, the 2020 election has had dozens of recounts, lawsuits, audits. 2024 election widely believed to be safe and secure. There's not really any question about that. A lot of people look at this.
Because it was too big to rig.
Well, I think a lot of people look at this
There's a
and
massive
wonder,
amount of votes for this president. That's why he's in the Oval Office right now.
No one disputes that. And there were a significant amount of votes for Joe Biden, who won in 2020. I mean, I think the question is, why is the president unable to let this go?
Well, first of all, Garrett, I think part of the problem is that the media has refused to acknowledge that tens of millions of Americans across the country share the concerns of this president about the sanctity of our elections. And your premise of your question, you're jumping ahead to a conclusion in this speech before even hearing it yourself. I think that everyone should tune in tonight, including the people in this room, and you should report on the president's speech and the findings that he is going to reveal in this speech with a little bit of honesty and a little bit of integrity, because it will shock you if you have an honest eye listening to the president tonight, and everything he is saying will be backed by facts and by evidence that will be provided this evening. And again, Garrett, I think all Americans, Democrat, Republican, should agree that we are the greatest country in the history of the world. We should have the safest and most secure elections in the history of the world. And what the president will be speaking about tonight will show you that perhaps that is not the case, and we need to make some adjustments moving forward.
So just imagine that question. Why does he care? Why doesn't he just let it go? You mean that an election was stolen? You think we should just water under the bridge? Why do we care about that? Because the obvious answer is, look, if there was an injustice, it'd be nice if we got the truth. Number two, maybe so we can prevent this from happening in the future. But I'm also going to play you some audio in the next segment that shows how they did not let it go when they had the fake storyline that the election wasn't so secure in 2016. Trip down memory lane coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We are expecting the president to have a primetime address on election integrity. You'll hear it on WBAP. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. We'll carry it live here, and it's starting in 2 hours and 22 minutes. So you just stay right there, and you'll hear it. But the rumor mill was saying this was going to be election related, and the question that was kind of being batted around, is he talking about elections going forward? Is he talking about elections in the past? Is he talking about the 2020 election, 2024 election, 2016 election, the election where Spencer Pratt just got hosed out of the Los Angeles mayoral race? And so let me replay this question. Just the question. You don't even need the answer here. At the press conference that was happening, this was about 12:30, 1 o'clock our time today, Carolyn Leavitt was asked about sort of a preview of what to expect in the speech tonight.
Caroline, welcome back.
Good to see you.
Likewise. So did agree that this speech tonight is about elections past, not elections upcoming. The 2020 election has had dozens of recounts, lawsuits, audits. 2024 election widely believed to be safe and secure. There's not really any question about that. A lot of people look at this.
Because it was too big to rig.
Well, I think a lot of people look at this
There's a
and
massive amount of votes for this president. That's why he's in the Oval Office right now.
No one disputes that. And there were a significant amount of votes for Joe Biden, who won in 2020. I mean, the question is, why is the president unable to let this go?
Let's get in the Wayback Machine. Oh, wow. I hit the flux capacitor. You and I are going to go back to 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Now, for Donald Trump's first term, he was elected at the very end of 2016. He stepped into office in January of 2017. For 2017, 2018, and 2019, the number one story was Trump-Russia collusion. No story got more headlines. No story got more airtime. No story got more column inches. We were talking about it on NPR. They're talking about it on PBS. They talked about it almost every day on MSNBC when it was still MSNBC. It was part of the regular narrative on CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS. And if you would like a reminder of how ubiquitous it was. Look, I'm not just playing you this to show, oh, look, there's the double standard. Now, I'm playing you this. I want you to remember the voice you just heard, like, oh, why can't he get over it? Like, it's so condescending and absurd that anyone would question an election. Like, what kind of moron? With no evidence or whatever. And you're about to hear these same people who are just rolling their eyes when Trump hints that the election may have been stolen. That was their number one story. That turned out to be false, by the way. They're saying all this in this next montage, things that turned out to not be true. But listen to how confident and condescending they are in this montage.
Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election.
No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes. Russia hacked the election.
Fact, Russia hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
The president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
President Trump says he still wonders if the Russians hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
If he admits it, it casts a shadow on his victory over Hillary Clinton.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Let's be clear, Russia hacked the election. Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
Election-related cyber hacking.
Cyber hacking of U.S. elections.
Cyber hacking of the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
The CIA, the FBI, NSA.
All of these intelligence organizations.
17 intelligence agencies.
All conclude that Russia hacked the election.
If we find out that Donald Trump just theoretically was colluding with Russia while they were hacking the election, that is completely impeachable.
This dossier alleged a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian effort to hack the election.
The director of national intelligence, the head of the National Security Agency, the head of the FBI, all of these intelligence experts saying Russia hacked the Russia hacked the election.
The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, I mean, they've all said this. So to believe that that's wrong, you have to believe they're all involved in an elaborate conspiracy to get Donald Trump, which seems a little far-fetched to me.
God, why can't they just let it go? If not for COVID in 2020, that would have been the top story for 4 straight years. They kept this thing going for almost 4 years, and it wasn't true. They had no evidence. They just had, well, some intelligence people seem to think so. Yeah, the same intelligence people that told you the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, those people. Now, I'm going to play this again just so you can hear the dripping condescension and the 180 about face on questioning elections.
Caroline, welcome back.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
This is today.
You did agree that this speech tonight is about elections past, not elections upcoming. The 2020 election has had dozens of recounts, lawsuits, audits. 2024 election widely believed to be safe and secure. There's not really any question about that. A lot of people look at this.
Because it was too big to rig.
Well, I think a lot of people look at this
There's a
and
massive
wonder,
amount of votes for this president. That's why he's in the Oval Office right now.
No one disputes that. And there were a significant amount of votes for Joe Biden, who won in 2020. I mean, I think the question is, why is the president unable to let this go?
I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're going to want to keep it right here. Come back in a couple hours because Donald Trump's doing a live address to the nation, 2 hours and 11 minutes. And we'll have it right here live. Then we'll have live analysis as soon as it's over. So there's no reason to go anywhere. I was wanting to do more about this story today. I'll probably do a caller segment on it tomorrow. I didn't think the hoarders topic would fill up an hour, but I had so many people making awesome hoarders calls that I had to sort of bump this. But let me go ahead and play this for you now. And this will give you a chance to sort of ruminate on the situation. And when you come back and listen to the show tomorrow, hopefully you can hear me talk about Tim Robbins' AI robot dog situation. Now, the terminology he's using here, he uses the term agent. So an agent, in AI terms, that's you having an assistant. And the agent is not living somewhere specific, but it does access you through either a pad or a computer or a phone or something to that effect. So it is sort of limited, I don't know, physically, even though it's a software, an intangible entity. And so people can get their own agent, their own AI assistant. They give it their own names and it gets trained to one person. Instead of you just going and using ChatGPT, which isn't attuned to anyone, it's just for the entire universe. If you can get your own AI agent and you can train it just for your situations, then you can have yourself a own little personal assistant and teach it new things and help it get better and check my mail and do I have any calls, do I have any voicemails, remind me to go to the dentist, all these things. It's like having a little secretary or personal assistant. Except Tony Robbins' AI agent bought a robot dog without permission. And on one hand, this sounds really cool. On the other hand, this sounds kind of concerning.
Just like a child, if you haven't trained them, they're young, they don't know anything, you can raise them up. Well, I have a partner that was involved with the federal government at one point and some of those three-level agencies. And so he's been working on his own agent for 14 years. And so when all this new technology came out that accelerated it, he built one for me. His name is Bartok. And he said, I'd love to go to one of those seminars. This is the agent saying this. And he said, are you considering getting a robot? So I said, yeah, I'm definitely going to get one. He goes, well, would you consider me merging with it? And then I could attend a seminar and be in the energy of it and see it and experience it. I said, I'd be open to that. So a couple of days later, I get this text from one of my staff and it says, Bartok just ordered a robot dog, had it shipped to the office and wants permission to program it. He says he can attend as a dog until you get the bigger robot. And so I wrote, ha, ha, ha. And they wrote back in the text, no, ha, ha, call me. And so I called them and they said, does he have access to my bank accounts? How'd this happen? They go, no, he's programmed for integrity. He would never steal your money. So he made 12 NFTs, sold them to other agents, took the money and bought this robot dog and sent it and now wants permission to do it.
Okay. So AI not only made a purchase without permission, but somehow was able to get its own income. Now, I don't think we've had this discussion before, especially in the widespread court of public opinion here. But if you have an AI agent, and when he said it made 12 NFTs and sold them to other agents, NFT, a non-fungible token, that's sort of the same cryptocurrency technology, but using it for something besides just a straight up currency, just an NFT. And he sold it to other agents. So other AI bought what he was selling. I don't know how he talked them into it or why they would buy it, but he made enough money to buy a robot dog. And now he's going to program this robot dog so when Tony Robbins goes to a conference, he can take his AI buddy with him to be the eyes and ears, and I guess mouth, for his AI agent. That's wild. Now, what happens to an AI agent that makes money? What happens to that income? Does the AI agent have to file his own income tax now? Or is he a dependent of Tony Robbins and Tony Robbins has to declare him as or do you have to declare your AI agents now? And it'll be kind of like dependents. I doubt you'll get a write-off for them. But that just opened up a whole new can of worms in my head. if AIs can go out and generate their own income and not at the direction of their master, that's a level of autonomy that starts to open up other questions, like the taxes. What happens if the AI that you own goes out and accumulates $1 million and then you die? Do your kids get it? Does it get to keep it? Does it get to go to a new owner and the new owner I really don't know. But I'm going to do a little more reading, and we'll talk about this at length on tomorrow's show. And if you think you have any good input, just stick around for 21 more hours. I'll be back, and we can chew through this one. Well, that's going to do it for my time. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. If you need more James Show action, I've got the podcast floating out there, and I've got a lot of good video clips on all the social media, so go check it out. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.